Soft, white, rich and beautiful vs love brain, melancholy, loyal dog, 3-year-old sisters and brothers love. In her previous life, Ruan Qingqing was a malicious woman who replaced her cousin's college entrance exam results, intervened in her best friend's relationship, and everyone shouted and beat her. She paid a painful price for this, was sentenced to 3 years in prison, compensated her cousin with 1,000,000 yuan of property, and her fiancé abandoned her. The only father who loved her to the bone died because of her, and she was sentenced to death as an apology. After her death, the gloomy tycoon who she had never looked at before corrected her name. Originally, everything was just calculation. Fortunately, the heavens had an eye and allowed her to be reborn back to the year when she failed the college entrance examination. Strive to repeat studies, get rid of vampire relatives, punish scumbags and lowly women, protect your beloved father, and develop the clothing factory into an internationally renowned enterprise. The gloomy tycoon of his past life, now he is still a poor young man with no family to afford even a meal. To repay the kindness of the previous life, Ruan gently activated the "I raise you" parenting mode. Are creditors forcing their doorstep? Ruan Qingqing stole his father's passbook without saying a word to repay the boy's debt. Can't you cook at home? Ruan gently served his rations to the Jiang family's table, taking pots and pans together. Lack of clothes and wearing less. Ruan Qingqing directly led the person to the warehouse of his own clothing factory to randomly select. Under the careful care of Ruan Qingqing, the melancholic young man smoothly grew into a wealthy and handsome tycoon. She was pleased to prepare to retire, but was driven to the corner of her bed by the man's madness. If you raise it, you have to raise it for a lifetime. You can't start with chaos and give up. Keywords of the novel. The soft and white moonlight of the 80% paranoid big shot with no pop-ups, the soft and white moonlight of the 80% paranoid big shot. Download the complete set of TXT, and read the latest chapter on the soft and white moonlight of the 80% paranoid big shot. Chapter 1. Rebirth at the age of 18, refusing to impersonate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Rebirth at the age of 18, refusing to impersonate. Gently, gently, you open the door. The constant knocking on the door made Ruan Qingqing's chaotic consciousness gradually clear up. Looking at the unfamiliar and familiar room environment, her heart felt a sharp acid, and her hot tears slid down in large pieces. She was reborn and returned to the year when she failed the college entrance examination. Everything hasn't happened yet, she still has a chance to stop it. Thinking of this, she quickly went to open the locked door. Oh, gently, you finally opened the door. Are you scared to death, Dad? You've been locked in your room these past few days, not eating or drinking, and your face has lost a circle. Dad. Holding her tearful daughter, Ruan comforted her gently. All right, stop crying. Isn't it just a failure? Don't worry, Dad will find a way to send you to college. Ruan gently shook his head desperately, causing tears to fly out. No. Dad, I don't want to go to college anymore. As long as you're doing well, I won't leave you again. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? Gently, as you grow up, you will work and get married in the future. How could you possibly stay by your father's side forever? Wouldn't you become an old girl? No, if I don't get married, I will accompany you for a lifetime. Seeing her daughter crying into tears, Ruan felt extremely heartbroken. Okay. If you don't get married, then you have to go to college, right? Seeing Ruan gently shaking his head, Ruan happily took out a letter from his pocket. Gently, what do you think this is? Admission letter. Seeing the red printed font on the envelope clearly, Ruan's eyes suddenly widened, and the blood on his face faded completely in an instant. All the tragedies in her previous life, including her father's death, were due to this admission letter. Seeing her daughter staring at the envelope like a monster, Ruan was puzzled. Gently, what's wrong with you? Are you so happy? Ruan gently regained his senses and shifted his gaze from the admission letter to Ruan Dahai's kind and caring face, gradually calming down his emotions. Dad, I want to repeat my studies. I want to be upright and rely on my own abilities to get into college. Ruan Dahai frowned slightly, but there was no sense of blame on his face. Gently, repeating the exam is very tiring. It may not be possible to pass even after repeating, and it will be a waste of time then. Ruan interrupted him gently, Dad, even if I don't go to college, I won't replace someone else's grades. You go and return your cousin's admission letter to her tomorrow. Speaking of this, Ruan Qingqing suddenly thought of something and her face changed. Dad, did you give the money to Uncle's house? In her previous life, on the eve of her graduation from university, Ruan Qingqing reported to the Education Bureau with her real name that she had falsely taken the college entrance examination to attend university. The school revoked her education and enrollment, and her former relatives and friends cut off contact with her. Her best friend Yang Shan even stepped forward to publicly accuse her of taking love with violence. She became a morally corrupt and vicious woman. She couldn't bear such a blow since she was young. She blamed everything on Ruan Dahai. She spoke recklessly towards Ruan Dahai, and Ruan Dahai died in a car accident on the way to find a lawyer to alleviate her guilt. Without the solid support of Ruan Dahai, she was deceived by the Ruan Qingqing family to transfer all her property to Ruan Qingqing in exchange for her forgiveness. However, this did not allow her to evade criminal prosecution. It was not until she committed suicide in prison, unable to bear her conscience's condemnation, that she learned that the university quota was not forcibly seized by Ruan Dahai through means, but was voluntarily sold to her family by Uncle and Ruan Qingqing for a sky-high price. Thinking of this, Ruan Qingqing couldn't help but feel extremely anxious. Dad, impersonation is illegal. Once we are investigated, we will all go to jail. You must not buy Ruan Qingqing's college admission quota. Ruan Dahai was obviously scared and his face became serious. Gently, which one did you hear? It is now 1988, and the country has not yet issued a specific criminal law against impersonating others to attend universities, but there is a provision for the crime of forging identity. In her previous life, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison for this. After listening to Ruan Qingqing's promotion of the crime of forging identity, Ruan Dahai was also shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. Ruan Dahai is a loyal and righteous person who would rather suffer losses than take advantage of others. It is reasonable to say that such a personality is not suitable for business. But unfortunately, he was lucky and met a wife from a good family when he was young. With the help of the Yu family, he became a wealthy clothing factory owner. Ruan Dahai never did anything wrong in his life, including buying Ruan Qingqing's university spot, and he also gave her a full price. Therefore, upon hearing that she had almost done something illegal and almost implicated her daughter, Ruan Dahai was extremely scared. Gentle, we can't do anything that violates the law. I'll return the admission letter to your uncle tomorrow. Ruan nodded lightly and asked anxiously, Dad, haven't you and uncle signed any documents or anything like that? Ruan Dahai quickly shook his head and said, No, I just verbally agreed with your uncle to buy Qingqing's university spot for 50,000 yuan. Upon hearing this, Ruan couldn't help but sneer. These days, even households with 10,000 yuan are particularly rare, and 50,000 yuan can be considered a huge sum of money. Ruan Dajiang really dares to speak up. Dad, did you give the money to uncle? Ruan Dahai smiled bitterly and said, No, 50,000 yuan is not a small amount. I can't take it out at the moment. Fortunately, your uncle is reasonable and said he wants me to slowly make ends meet. They can wait for it for a year or two. Is Ruan Dajiang reasonable? That's just a bunch of cannibalistic wolves who don't spit out their bones. Ruan Qingqing couldn't explain everything about her past life to Ruan Dahai in detail, so she could only complain softly, if you were truly reasonable, you wouldn't have asked for 50,000 yuan from the lion. Anyway, if it were me, I wouldn't be able to say that. Gently, don't say that. It's not easy for Xiuxiu to get into college. Your uncle is counting on her for success. They are not easy, is it easy for Dad? You are both a father and a mother, and you also have to run a clothing factory. You are not enough for 3 heads and 6 arms. Uncle and auntie are healthy, and the small noodle shop business is also good. Yi Nai took your money and then subsidized them. Over the years, they have benefited a lot from you. Ruan Qingqing smiled with a good temper and said, I gave the old couple money to fulfill my son's filial piety and obligation. As for how to spend that money, it's the old couple's responsibility. Dad's whole life is about having a clear conscience. Ruan Qingqing looked at the sky 40.5 degrees, feeling a bit confused. How did a kind-hearted person like Ruan Qingqing become a boss? On Ruan Dajiang's side, the family is also talking about this 50,000 yuan matter. Dajiang, tomorrow morning you go find Qingqing and ask him to bring out 10,000 yuan first. Pay the rent owed by the noodle shop first, and then go buy a tricycle for the rest. Here comes the new article. Remember to collect the bookshelf if you like it. Reading Guide 1. In the fictional era, the opening background is from 1988, and prices and related information are all searched on Baidu for possible inaccuracies. Don't delve too deeply, let's focus on the plot. 2. The female protagonist is a fair-skinned and beautiful soft girl. After being reborn, she becomes clear and rational, and gradually changes her weak and trusting personality. She learns to reject useless interpersonal relationships and defend her own interests, but still maintains a pure and kind heart, and tends to be introverted towards the weak. 3. The male lead is a vicious wolf cub in the early stage, sensitive and suspicious, fierce and cold-blooded, lacking in values and not likable. Later, under the influence of the female protagonist, she will gradually change and become a paranoid, black-bellied, green tea-loving brain with 3 values following the female protagonist. 4. 4,000 words per day. For now, that's all. I hope the new article will be liked by everyone, and I also hope that everyone can vote and publish more reviews. This way, Lao Chi will have more motivation and love you all. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Ruan Dajiang visits to ask for money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Ruan Dajiang visits to ask for money. With a tricycle, it will be more convenient to go to the market to buy noodles and vegetables in the future. Speaking of her plans for the future, Lu Guilin couldn't help but frown. Ruan Xiuxiu lifted her head from her rice bowl and said, this university spot belongs to me, and the money sold will be divided equally with me. Lu Guilin's happy expression instantly disappeared from her face. You've eaten too much food and ruined your brain. Are you talking in your sleep? Ruan Xiuxiu bit her lips lightly, her face full of grievances and indignation. I worked hard to get into college, and now that I want to sell it, it's like selling my future. Why not give me money? Why? Just rely on me being your old man. I raised you for 20 years and spent so much money on reading that terrible book. Now is the time for you to repay me. After being scolded by Ruan Dajiang, Ruan Xiuxiu did not compromise and stubbornly stood around her neck. Anyway, I have to get a copy of this money, otherwise I won't sell this admission letter, I'll read it myself. Ruan Dajiang is the pillar of the family, always speaking without hesitation. When he saw his daughter's wings stiffen and dared to confront him, he stood up and slapped her. Do you still want to argue with me? If I give you 3 colors, I want to open a dyeing workshop. When I can't clean you up. Ruan Xiuxiu covered her face in sorrow and anger, stopped eating and threw away her chopsticks before running out. Why are you hitting her? Lu Guilin scolded her husband angrily, tomorrow she will have to work at a noodle shop. When someone sees the slap mark on her face, she will have to gossip behind her back. I beg him, but every day I'm full and can't find anything to ask for. Ruan Dajiang cursed and picked up chopsticks to continue eating. The quarrel at home did not affect Ruan Qingqing's cooking. The braised pork belly in the bowl was sent to his mouth one by one. He ate bowls after bowls of rice, which made his face glow. When Lu Guilan saw the bottom of the braised pork belly in the bowl, she was not angry. "Are you a starving ghost reincarnation? I've given you a bowl of meat and begged for it." Ruan Qingqing licked his shiny lips and confidently said, "Why don't you tell me not to buy more meat? This small bowl is not enough for me to eat alone." "You're saying it lightly, you don't need to pay for meat, right?" Speaking of money, Ruan Qingqing put down his chopsticks, wiped the oil from his mouth, and looked at Lu Guilan with a smile. "Mom, when you get money from Uncle Air tomorrow, you can also buy me a car for school." Lu Guilan glanced at her husband and saw that there was no opposition on his face. She readily agreed, "Buy it, buy it. I'll buy you a foreign horse then." "I don't want foreign horses," said Ruan Qingqing with some disdain. Lu Guilan glared at him and said, "What do you want? Do you want to buy a rocket to take you to heaven?" "I want a motorcycle." Lu Guilan's eyes widened like copper bells and she said, "What, a motorcycle? I see you rubbing and rubbing. Motorcycles are so expensive, don't you know?" Ruan Qingqing knew that it was Ruan Dajiang who was in charge of the family, so he flattered Ruan Dajiang and said, "Dad, now that Jialing 70 is less than 5,000 yuan. Think about it, our family has a motorcycle, how much face we have in the village." Ruan Dajiang took a big bite of the rice with his head down. In recent years, those who went out to work in the village have earned some money, built new houses, and bought motorcycles. On the contrary, it was him who came out early and opened his own shop as the owner. Everyone in the village thought he had made a fortune. In fact, he has been struggling for the past 2 years, not to mention building a new house and buying a motorcycle. He can't even scrape together the rent for the noodle shop. After buying a motorcycle, he will be able to have a good time in the village this year. "When you receive the money tomorrow, go and see." Ruan Qingqing immediately exclaimed excitedly, "Dad, my classmate's uncle has opened a car dealership. If we go there, we can at least get a discount of 100 or 200 yuan. Ruan Dajiang nodded. Although Lu Guilan was worried about money, she thought about having a motorcycle at home, which not only made her fellow villagers envious, but also made it convenient to go anywhere in the future, so she did not speak out against it. The whole family was full of longing and anticipation for the upcoming new life, but Ruan Xiuxiu's heart was desolate. It was already dark and the area around the noodle shop was remote. She didn't dare to run far, so she hid outside and listened to her family's conversation clearly. She looked up at the pitch-black night sky, her heart filled with resentment. Hate the poverty at home, and even more resent the injustice of fate. She finally got into college, but unexpectedly, the policy changed as soon as it changed. She had to pay tuition fees and no food subsidies to go to college. After all the miscellaneous expenses were calculated, attending college for a year would cost at least 500 yuan. The family couldn't even afford this money, nor would they offer her so much money to attend college. But Ruan Qingqing clearly did not get into college, but because her family had money, she could replace her college entrance exam results to go to college. God, it's so unfair. I gave everything to Ruan Qingqing, but she had nothing. Opening the curtains, bright sunlight poured in, plating all the objects in the room with soft and peaceful colors. Ruan gently leaned against the windowsill and looked down. The hibiscus flowers on both sides of the street were blooming beautifully and pink, and the breakfast stall at the corner wafted the fragrance of food. The passers-by rushed to life, and everything was so familiar and beautiful. She stretched lazily, her eyes as bright as black gemstones, greedily gazing at the world before her. She's not dreaming, she's really going back to the age of 18, that's great. Gentle, have you woken up yet? Get up. Opening the door, I saw Ruan Dahai with an apron tied around her waist and a spatula in hand. Ruan couldn't help but smile sweetly. Dad, it's great to have you. Ruan Dahai was hugged by her daughter and smiled until her face was covered in wrinkles. Oh, why are you so old and still coquettish? Are you shy? Ruan gently buried his face on Ruan Dahai's shoulder and rubbed it, his voice becoming even more coquettish. I don't care, no matter how old I am still your daughter. Go wash your face and brush your teeth. Dad made your favorite Song Yubing. After washing, he sat down at the table and looked at the golden Song Yubing. Ruan couldn't wait to pick up his chopsticks and was about to eat. Suddenly, there was a loud clap at the door. The sea, are you there or not? Ruan Qingqing's good mood instantly disappeared. She is too familiar with this voice, it's Ruan Dajiang. Ruan Dahai warmly welcomed Ruan Dajiang into the door and invited him to the dining table. Ruan Dajiang was not polite at all. He took Ruan Dahai's rice bowl, ate it, and ate 2/3 of a plate of Song Yubing in the blink of an eye. Ruan looked coldly at the other person, placing his hand under the table and tightly gripping it. She was afraid that someone who couldn't resist would lift the table. Ruan Dajiang felt a little uneasy when he was stared at by Ruan Qingqing's gaze. He chuckled and said, Qingqing, why are you looking at uncle like this? Ruan lowered her gaze gently, suppressing the churning hatred in her heart. When she looked up again, a well-behaved and harmless smile appeared on her face. Uncle, you came just in time. Dad and I have something to tell you. Ruan Dajiang took up a bowl of porridge and drank it all. Then he took the last Song Yubing and put it into his mouth. Then he wiped his mouth with satisfaction. The sea, I have something to talk to you about. Ruan Dajiang is a kind-hearted person. As soon as he heard that Ruan Dajiang had something to do with him, he humbly said, Brother, if you have anything, just let me know. If you can help, I will definitely help. Ruan Dajiang was not polite at all. Dajiang, please give me 10,000 yuan first. The rent for the noodle shop has been owed for several months, and the landlord has been pressing hard. You can pay the remaining money slowly later. I'm not in a hurry. Uncle, we were just about to tell you about this. We won't buy our cousin's college spot anymore. Afraid that Ruan Dahai would soften his heart and agree, Ruan gently rushed to speak. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Goodbye in Another World, Melancholy Youth Jiang Chen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Goodbye in Another World, Melancholy Youth Jiang Chen. What does gently mean, the sea? As soon as he heard the duck fly, Ruan Dajiang's face changed and he glared angrily at the father and daughter. Brother, this is indeed my fault. I will compensate you with a gift. Dad, let me tell uncle. Ruan Dahai is a loyal and righteous person who values family relationships. When Ruan Dajiang became angry, he instinctively blamed himself for the mistake, feeling that he had not been honest. Buying and selling university spots is inherently illegal, there is no such thing as integrity. Uncle, I have decided to repeat the course and return my cousin's admission letter to you. Let's just pretend that this has never happened. Gently, you little girl, I won't tell you. What do you say, hi. Did we agree? You turned back and didn't admit it when it came to the end. At least you are also a big boss. Are you so careless in handling things? Ruan Dajiang was furious, his eyes eager to eat people. 50,000 yuan is the amount he can't earn even if he runs a noodle shop for a lifetime. How many years did he wait for such an opportunity to change his destiny? If he didn't, it would be gone. He wouldn't give up. To be honest, Ruan Dajiang's outburst was quite frightening, and Ruan gently overcame his inner timidity and argued with reason. Uncle, buying and selling university spots is illegal. Once investigated, both Xiuxiu and I will bear criminal responsibility and will have to go to jail. Yeah, brother, I didn't know this was illegal before. Look, we can't push the children into the fire pit, can we? Although Ruan Dahai felt guilty in his heart, he would never do anything illegal, which is his bottom line. Ruan Dajiang became anxious and said, Who said that? Who said it was illegal? There are so many people who replace me in college, how can others be okay? Dahai, I read more books than you don't deceive me. According to Article 280 of the Criminal Law, those who embezzle or impersonate others' identities, replace the qualifications for higher education enrollment obtained by others, shall be sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment of not more than 3 years. Those who organize or instigate others to carry out acts shall be punished severely in accordance with regulations. Uncle, if I really replace my cousin to attend this university, not only will I go to jail, but you and Shushio will also be held responsible. Ruan Qingqing spoke with righteous words and resounded, and Ruan Dajiang was also somewhat intimidated for a moment. But the thought of the 50,000 yuan he received flying away made his heart ache like a knife cutting. He advised Ruan Qingqing to say, "Qingqing, do you know Li Laozi's child? His child's university quota was replaced by Guofeiyu earlier, so many years have passed and nothing has happened. Don't scare yourself. Ruan Qingqing, who can be there, is no longer the foolish and sweet person from the previous life, and will not believe Ruan Dajiang's lies. The retribution of the heavenly ways cycle is not satisfactory. Just because we have nothing now doesn't mean we will have nothing in the future. Anyway, my dad and I won't do anything that violates the law." Ruan Dahai nodded in agreement. The father and daughter had a firm attitude, and Ruan Dajiang could only leave reluctantly no matter how unwilling he was. As he stepped out of the house, Ruan Dajiang didn't give up and turned to ask Ruan Dahai, "Dahai, do you want to consider it again?" "Brother, it's really not possible. We can't break the law, can't we? We'll have to eat a fast food. That's not a joke." Sigh. Ruan Dajiang walked away with a frown on his face, but Ruan Qingqing smiled and bloomed. She succeeded. She changed the critical juncture of the tragedy in her previous life, and her father will not die. Ruan Dahai closed the door and turned around to see her daughter sitting on the sofa, giggling incessantly. She couldn't help but laugh along. "Gently, wait, I'll fry Song Yu Bing for you again." Ruan gently pulled Ruan Dahai in a good mood. "Dad, stop it. Let's go out to eat. I want to eat dandan noodles of Zhang Qi's family." "Alright, let's go out and eat dandan noodles." Ruan Dahai has always favored her daughter, so she immediately took off her apron and went back to the bedroom to get her bag. Ruan Qingqing changed her shoes and walked out the door. As soon as she left, she heard footsteps downstairs and turned her head to look at the staircase. The first thing that caught the eye was the young man's wild and bold hair, followed by cold and handsome eyebrows and eyes, a straight nose bridge, tightly pursed thin lips, a smooth jawline, and then a protruding Adam's apple and collarbone. The boy was wearing a grey cloth jacket that had been washed white, with two thin but strong arms bare. The collar of the jacket was already worn to hair, and there were two prominent large patches on the hem. He wore old blue cloth pants and thick patches on the knees. Pop, pop. Wrapped in a blue cloth, the thin legs climbed up step by step, as if stepping on Ruan's gentle heartbeat. "Let go." A low, dark yet youthful voice rang in my ears. Ruan hurriedly retreated, but accidentally bumped into the door panel and let out a soft, "ah," instinctively. However, the boy didn't even glance at her and went straight over, bringing a gust of wind. A strange smell of sweat belonging to men rushed into Ruan Qingqing's nose. Ruan Qingqing was filled with regret and turned his head to continue secretly glancing at Jiang Chen. At first glance, it was discovered that there were several patches on his back, one stacked on top of the other. With the movement of touching the key, the thin shoulder blades penetrated through the thin and transparent fabric. He is not very old and not tall, but his thin back is slightly curved, like an old man who is suffocated by the heavy burden of life. Ruan Qingqing felt inexplicably sad. "Gently, let's go." Ruan Dahai was holding a leather bag under his armpit, tying the hem of his shirt towards his waist while hurriedly walking out of the house. Seeing the young man with his back facing the Ruan family key to open the door, he quickly greeted with a smile and said, "Xiao Jiang, have you come back?" Jiang Chen turned his head and gave Ruan Qingqing a faint glance, which was a response. Then he entered his own house and closed the door. In her previous life, Ruan Qingqing detested Jiang Chen's attitude. Despite being extremely poor, she was cold, proud, and gloomy to the outside world. She didn't look like a good person, which made her instinctively resentful and fearful. So much so that when she meets Jiang Chen, if she can dodge, she will dodge, and if she can't dodge, she will lower her head as if she can't see. She remembers that Jiang Chen's family moved in at the beginning of the year and had been neighbors for half a year, but she never said a word to Jiang Chen and had eye contact. Later, she went to college, moved to the dormitory, and then bought a commercial house to live outside. When Jiang Chen moved out, she no longer remembers. If it weren't for Jiang Chen handling her affairs after death, she would have forgotten about this person. What surprised her even more was that Jiang Chen put in a lot of effort to correct her name. He probably didn't have a crush on her, did he? Ruan gently shook his head, dispelling this unrealistic idea. Not to mention that Jiang Chen is 3 years younger than her, he is still a furry boy who hasn't even grown hair. She could feel that Jiang Chen was very disdainful towards her neighbor sister now. In the previous life, after her death, when Jiang Chen went to the cemetery to worship her, he didn't say a word. The tribute, burning paper, and offering flowers were all done by his subordinates. He stood next to her smoking, and after the worship was over, he turned his head and left, just like completing routine tasks. Dad, are you very familiar with Jiang Chen? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Revenge for Gratitude, Revenge for Revenge. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Revenge for Gratitude, Revenge for Revenge. The face was a bit hot, and Ruan gently picked up a strand of air to blow while reciting Ruan Qingqing's words. Speaking of Jiang Chen, Ruan Qingqing sighed and said, Xiao Jiang is not an easy child. He has to carry the entire family at a young age, and sometimes there is a shortage of manpower in the factory. I will ask him to help, and the salary can be considered higher than other temporary workers. Ruan took a gentle bite of the noodles and said, he doesn't have a formal job. He hasn't even reached 16 yet, and no factory dares to take him. He can only work as a black laborer everywhere and be bullied everywhere. Ruan gently lowered his head and took a bite of the noodles, proposing, Dad, when he turns 16, why don't you hire him to work in the factory and teach him some skills? I think he's quite practical, and we can help him out. Ruan Qingqing smiled and said, I think the same way. I've asked him before, and he'll be 16 years old in just over a month. His birthday happens to be 3 days away from yours. When Ruan Dajiang returned home and told the story, Lu Guilan immediately became furious. The price has been agreed upon, why should Ruan Qingqing say, back out, and then back out? He's full and has nothing to do, so he's playing with us. Ruan Dajiang had a blank face, smoking silently with his head down. Lu Guilan panicked and said, Dajiang, you have an idea. What about rent? And a car? Didn't you say you wanted to buy a motorcycle? Buy a hammer too. Ruan Dajiang cursed angrily. Lu Guilan, unwilling to let the duck fly, pulled Ruan Dajiang and said, why don't we find someone to talk to gently? She's a girl doll, so she's easy to talk to. Dajiang has been used to her since childhood. As long as she nods, he has to buy it. When it comes to Ruan Qingqing, Ruan Dajiang is filled with anger. She's such a talkative hammer. She's the one blocking Ruan Qingqing from buying. This dead girl, who has read too much, has been foolishly begging and talking to me about laws, saying she's afraid of going to jail. Lu Guilan had never read a book and was even more blind to the law. When she heard that Ruan Qingqing was blocking her from getting rich, she immediately became angry and cursed loudly, as if Ruan Qingqing had dug up her ancestral tomb. Dad, Mom, since Uncle Air no longer buys my college spot, can I switch to studying on my own? When Lu Guilan was exhausted from scolding, Ruan Qingqing somehow crawled out and begged Ruan Dajiang and Lu Guilan. When I graduate from college and earn money, I will definitely show my filial piety to you all. Ruan Dajiang glared at his daughter with a displeased expression and said, if it's up to you, go away and don't bother me. Dad. Watching her daughter refuse to leave, Lu Guilan angrily scolded, if you don't take a look at the family's situation, you won't be able to afford food anymore. There's no spare money for you to go to college. Ruan Qingqing reluctantly wiped away her tears and said, we don't have money. Uncle Air's family has it. I'll borrow it from him. I'm his own niece, so I don't believe he won't borrow it. If he doesn't want to borrow it, I'll go find Yi Nai and the village chief to judge. Ruan Dajiang and Lu Guilan exchanged a glance. Due to family difficulties, they naturally thought about borrowing money from Ruan Dahai. However, over the years, they have borrowed a lot of money from Ruan Dahai one after another, but have not paid back a penny. Ruan Dahai is no longer willing to lend them money to do business, and instead advises them to close the noodle shop and work. When the boss gets used to it, they won't accept the anger of working. However, this time it was different. My daughter finally got into college. This was the first college student from the Nguyen family, and it was a great thing to honor our ancestors. As an elder, Nguyen Dahai should help him. After a day of digestion and calmness, Ruan Qingqing is now able to face the fact of rebirth calmly and has made a simple plan for the future. She only repeated her studies for a year, and it was best if she could get into college. If she couldn't get into college, she gave up. She is not suitable for studying, and her grades have been average from childhood to adulthood. There is no need to spend her youth on the matter of taking the college entrance exam. It's better to save time and learn some skills that interest her. In addition, she also plans to rely on her lifelong advantages and experience to help Ruan Dahai expand the operation of the garment factory. The rest is to repay kindness and seek revenge. Ruan gently took out a locked sheepskin notebook and wrote down the names of Ruan Qingqing's family, Zhang Ong Shan, and others on the first page. These are all enemies who have harmed her and her father in her previous life. After some thought, she added the name of Yi Nai. They are both their sons, but the Ruan Dajiang family is the biological ones. She and her father are not even as good as the ones they picked up. Even before Ruan Dahai's death, he suffered from their insults and coercion. She won't forgive them, never. After writing the list of enemies, Ruan gently flipped to the second page and picked up his pen to write down Jiang Chen's name. She thought for a whole day, and in her previous life, there was only Jiang Chen who truly showed kindness to her. It has to be said that she really failed in her previous life. The outcome was actually due to her own reasons. She has a weak personality, always giving in everything, and is blind in her eyes and mind, believing in scumbags and lowly women. In this lifetime, she will definitely not make the same mistake again. Closing the notebook and locking it, Ruan breathed a sigh of relief and caught a glimpse of the alarm clock on the table, realizing it was almost 6 o'clock. Ruan gently changed his shoes, took the key, and prepared to go downstairs to buy some groceries. Just as I left, I collided head-on with the 3 members of Ruan Dajiang's family who were going upstairs. As soon as she saw Ruan Qingqing's young and inexperienced face, Ruan Qingqing couldn't help but think of her previous life. After she was imprisoned, Ruan Qingqing came to visit her in bright clothes and gold and silver. Saying it's a visit is actually showing off. It was also at that time that she realized that Ruan Qingqing, her cousin, was a dark and twisted little person in her heart. She was jealous of her while enjoying her assistance with peace of mind. Ruan Qingqing's family is not well off. She eats, wears, and uses food, and has sent out countless gifts. What can be exchanged is the other party's revenge. In this life, even if she throws things in the trash can, she won't give Ruan Qingqing half a thread of yarn. Gently, where's your dad? Lu Guilan asked as her gaze spun around Ruan Qingqing. Due to her good family background and being favored by Ruan Dahai, Ruan Qingqing has always been at the forefront of the times in terms of clothing. When Ruan Xiuxiu was wearing coarse blue cloth, Ruan gently put on dacron and fine floral cloth. Nowadays, with better living conditions, Ruan Xiuxiu has also put on dacron, while Ruan Qingqing has already put on a printed pleated skirt that can only be bought in the Shanghai market. The outer layer is a thin, semi-transparent fabric, and the inner layer is a white lining with flowers printed on it. The colors of the flowers come out from inside, making it indescribably beautiful and fashionable. In addition, Ruan Qingqing is young, with a good figure and snow-white skin, which is simply as delicate as a flower. Oh, I bought a new dress again, it looks really nice. I don't know when my Xiuxiu will be able to wear such a good dress. In the past, when Ruan Qingqing heard this, she would definitely lend her skirt to Ruan Xiuxiu to wear. Although Ruan Xiuxiu borrowed it and never returned it, she didn't care because she had too many clothes to wear. Moreover, those clothes will no longer look like they were worn by Ruan Xiuxiu, and she will not wear them again when they are returned. Knowing what Lu Hohat was up to, Ruan Qingqing did not answer the other party's conversation. "Auntie and uncle, are you here for anything?" Perhaps it was because of the morning incident that Dajiang didn't have a good face towards her. "I can't even talk to you if I have something to say, I'll find your dad." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. No one helps, she relies on herself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. No one helps, she relies on herself. Upon learning that Ruan Dahai had not yet returned from work, Dajiang said he wanted to wait at her house, but Ruan Qingqing did not want Lu Guilan and Ruan Qingqing to enter. In the past, she was foolish and always couldn't bear to refuse. Lu Guilan and Ruan Xiuxiu's mother and daughter, under various pretexts, had to leave a lot of things. From clothes, shoes, bags, to pens, desk lamps, facial cleansers, even eggs and meat in the refrigerator are being looted. "Auntie and uncle, I have something to go out of. You can come back later. You give me the key, we'll just go in and wait for it ourselves." As she spoke, Lu Guilan reached out to grab the keychain in her hand, with a familiar and natural expression as if she was going back to her own home. Ruan gently pushed his hand back to avoid Lu Hohat's movements. "Auntie, neither my dad nor I are at home. How could you stay at home alone? It's so bad." "It's okay, we're all from our own family, don't talk about those formalities." Ruan smiled gently, her clear and bright eyes resembling a calm lake. "Auntie, you misunderstood. What I mean is that there's no one at home, and if something gets lost, I can't explain it clearly," she said. The face of Ruan Dajiang's family immediately changed, all glaring angrily at Ruan Qingqing, as if Ruan Qingqing had said such heinous words. "Did you talk to your elders like this? No, big or small, reading so many books is like reading a dog's stomach." Ruan Dajiang has a hot temper and a fierce expression on his face. Ruan's gentle statement that he is not afraid is false. Even Ruan Xiuxiu, her own daughter, has been beaten by Ruan Dajiang since childhood. She doesn't think Ruan Dajiang will be polite to her. But even if she was beaten, she wouldn't let Ruan Dajiang's family enter again. "Uncle, whether it's rough or not, there's no one at home, so it's inconvenient for you to enter. You either go downstairs and wait, or come back later." Ruan gently finished speaking and prepared to continue downstairs, but Ruan Dajiang and Lu Guilan refused to give up. The couple blocked her in front and behind, trying to grab the key. Ruan gently held the key tightly, refusing to let go no matter how Lu Guilan broke her fingers. The strength of Ruan Dajiang and Lu Guilan was too strong, and she felt her arms almost breaking. Her fingers seemed to be about to be broken, and the piercing pain made her sweat profusely. "Let go." At this moment, a familiar low-pitched voice suddenly sounded in my ear. Ruan gently turned back. Jiang Chen's slender figure stood on the steps like a pine and cypress, with gloomy and pitch-black eyes indifferent to the farce in front of him. Her eyes sparkled with surprise. "Jiang Chen, save me. Just as he finished shouting, Lu Guilan covered his mouth, and Dajiang sternly warned Jiang Chen, mind your own business and leave. Jiang Chen expressionlessly crossed the path that the couple had given way to and went straight downstairs. Ignoring Ruan Qingqing's plea for help from beginning to end, he didn't even give her a trace of eye contact. Watching Jiang Chen disappear at the entrance of the corridor, the hope in Ruan Qingqing's eyes gradually faded. She doesn't understand. In his previous life, he was willing to help her with the difficult and time-consuming task of investigating the truth and making her innocent. This life is just a small matter, but he stands idly by. Just as she was distracted, Lu Guilan snatched the keychain from her hand. Staring at the back of Ruan Dajiang's family upstairs, Ruan couldn't help but shed tears. God gave her a chance to start over again. Should she give up like this and repeat the mistakes of her previous life? No, she is unwilling. No one helps her, she relies on herself. Ruan gently supported the wall and stood up. At the moment when Lu Guilan inserted the key into the lock, she used all her strength to hit it. Click. The key broke in the lock hole. Lu Hohat pinched the broken keyhead and glared angrily at Ruan Qingqing, why are you going crazy? Now that it's okay, the lock hole is blocked. It would cost at least 5 yuan to find someone to open the lock. You're such a spendthrift. Lu Guilan was cursing, but Ruan Qingqing was particularly happy. Ruan Dajiang and his wife were reluctant to spend money to find a locksmith, and Ruan Qingqing was even less likely to find one. The four of them stood at the staircase waiting for Ruan Dahai to come back. During this period, Ruan Xiuxiu took the initiative to talk to Ruan Qingqing, but Ruan Qingqing was too lazy to answer. Ruan Xiuxiu also loves face. After sticking her cold buttocks twice, she stopped looking for Ruan Qingqing and only looked at her pleated skirt and red sandals with her spare light. Both of them are plastic sandals, but the sandals on Ruan Qingqing's feet are shiny and crystal-like. However, her pair is gray and not as stylish as Ruan Qingqing's delicate appearance. In fact, the sandals on Ruan Xiuxiu's feet were still given to her by Ruan Qingqing, but due to the small size, they were deformed by the soles of her feet, and the straps and soles of her feet were broken several times. They were re-glued with a burnt iron rod, leaving unsightly black scars. Inferiority and jealousy entwined Ruan Xiuxiu's heart like vines, making her feel suffocated. After a while, Ruan Dahai returned and Lu Guilan immediately added fuel and vinegar to Ruan's gentle statement. Sister-in-law, my family fell lightly on the college entrance examination, and I feel unhappy. You and my brother can understand. So, today you're rare to come over, let's go out and eat. Let's treat it as me apologizing to you lightly. How about that? Ruan Dahai and Lu Guilan's faces look much better now. Xiuxiu, why don't you come and call Jiang over? It's rare for your second uncle to treat you to a restaurant. This time, we need to have a good tooth ceremony. Ruan Dahai said happily, yes, calling Jiang and having a good meal is also a celebration of Xiuxiu's admission to university. Lu Guilan answered with a gloomy tone, Dajiang, you are Xiuxiu's second uncle. She was admitted to college, so you have to show off and not think that you can fool her with just one meal. Yes, Dad, my hand hurts a bit. Afraid that Ruan Dahai might fall for Lu Guilan's urging and promise any benefits, Ruan quickly spoke up. As soon as he heard his daughter cry out in pain, Ruan Dahai suddenly forgot to pay attention to Lu Guilan and his wife. Gently, what's wrong with you? It was uncle and auntie who fought. Ruan gently reached out his hands in front of Ruan Dahai and spoke to the couple of Ruan Dajiang with a hint of grievance. She was pampered by Ruan Dahai from a young age, without even touching her broom. She was covered in delicate skin and tender flesh, unable to withstand the brute force of Ruan Dahai and Lu Guilan, two middle-aged men. The two slender white arms were covered in pinch marks, and the hands were covered in nail marks. In some places, the skin was scratched and blood seeped out. It's unbearable to see. Ruan Dahai's heart tightened as he, with his good temper, became angry with Ruan Dajiang and his wife for the first time. Brother, sister. In law, even if you're not sensible enough, you can't kill her. It's fortunate that you're still elders. Do you have someone like you? Lu Guilan quickly explained, I didn't take action. Whoever took action was just having a few arguments. Ruan Dahai lifted Ruan's lightly injured hands and raised them in front of Lu Guilan. Look at the gently injured hands. Lu Guilan looked down at the corner of her mouth disapprovingly and said, oh my, it's just a minor skin injury. I'll take care of it for 2 days. It's not a big deal. I cut off half of my fingernails while cutting vegetables a few days ago, and I didn't even care about it. I just got over it. Dad, my arm hurts so much, I can't even lift it up. I don't know if it's a broken bone. Ruan Dahai glanced at Lu Guilan and said to herself, of course you don't feel sorry if it's not your biological child. Now she needs to take Ruan gently to the hospital for a check. Up. Arriving at the carport, Ruan Dahai helped his daughter onto the back seat of the car, stepped onto the motorcycle, and prepared to start, but was stopped by Lu Guilan and Ruan Dajiang who followed him. Dahai, it's already time for dinner. It's not too late to go to the hospital after dinner. That's right, you agreed to treat Xiuxiu to celebrate her admission to college. Jiang will come over soon, but you slapped your butt and left. What's this? Ruan Dahai was originally a person with a good temper. When two people said this, they immediately felt that it was not good for them to leave. Brother, sister. In law, otherwise. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Visiting to borrow money. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 6. Visiting to borrow money. Brother, sister. In law, why don't you go first? Dad, my hand hurts so much. Before Ruan Dahai could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Ruan's gentle cries of pain. Feeling sorry for his daughter, he immediately ignored Ruan Dajiang and his wife, turned the gas pedal, and started the motorcycle with a loud roar before driving away. Ruan Dahai and Lu Guilan couldn't dodge and ate a mouthful of exhaust gas, stamping their feet in anger. This dead girl, why are you so delicate? She broke her arm just by touching it. Lu Guilan cursed a few words and turned her head to see that her man remained silent. She raised her hand and pinched her waist. You idiot, you didn't know how to stop the car. Now that everyone has left, why bother with it? Ruan Dajiang waved Lu Guilan's hand in anger and said, you always know that you're saying, you haven't grown any hands or feet. Why don't you stop me? Lu Guilan was scolded to the point of losing her temper, thinking to herself that the motorcycle was driving so fast that it wouldn't be worth it if it hit her. So what's going on now? Ruan Dajiang cleared his throat and spat out a mouthful of white phlegm, saying, I'll go to the hospital to see. Don't be busy for now. Let's go together when Xiuxiu and Jiang arrive. Lu Guilan thought to herself, it's not dark yet, and her niece is fine after checking. She can still find a restaurant to have dinner and talk about borrowing money. When Ruan Dajiang and his family found Ruan Dahai, Ruan Qingqing had just finished the examination and the nurse was disinfecting her injured area. Ruan Dajiang tried to push the door in but was pulled by Lu Guilan. If you go in now, what if we ask you to pay for your medical expenses? Let's go and wait at the door. They will come out after they finish. Ruan Dajiang felt that his wife was right, so he immediately took his family to wait outside the emergency department. A young man at the age of Ruan Qingqing, who consumes a lot and is just about to eat, complains incessantly while groaning his stomach. When will we wait? I'm starving to death. Lu Guilan and Ruan Dajiang were also so hungry that their chests pressed against their backs, but there was nothing else they could do but wait and do. There are many snack stalls selling baogu mantu outside the hospital, but the couple can't afford to spend that money. Mom, how much do you plan to borrow from Uncle Air this time? Ruan Xiuxiu thought about the main matter. The couple exchanged a glance. Lu Guilan pondered, borrow 500 first. Ruan Dajiang remained silent. Ruan Qingqing said, 500 is only enough for me to study for 1 year. Lu Guilan glanced at her daughter and complained angrily, Mom, it's really expensive to go to college now. It costs 500 yuan per year, and after 3 years, it costs 15,000 yuan. I don't know what's the point of having so many books for you to read. I haven't earned a penny from home for so many years, I just know how to pay out. Ruan Qingqing smiled and said, Uncle Heir has plenty of money. What's 15 yuan worth? If you want to borrow more, just borrow 5,000 yuan and pay my sister's tuition. The rest can also be used to buy a motorcycle. Lu Guilan glared at her son and said, Mock your mother's head, you think money is so easy to borrow. Uncle Heir can't even take out 50,000, can't he take out 5,000? Lu Guilan stopped talking and looked at her husband with her eyes. She was just Ruan Dahai's sister. Law, always separated by a layer. Ruan Dajiang and Ruan Dahai were the real brothers, and when they asked for money, Ruan Dajiang had to open his mouth. Ruan Dajiang was also calculating the amount of money to borrow in his heart. My daughter's annual tuition and food expenses are 500 yuan, and the rent she owes to the landlord is 600 yuan, which adds up to 11,000 yuan. He also wants to buy a human-powered tricycle. He didn't choose a good location for his store, and after several years of operation, he didn't see much traffic. He wanted to use a tricycle to set up another stall and set up a nightstand selling cold noodles. In the emergency room, Ruan Dahai watched anxiously as the nurse disinfected her daughter's fingers and asked if she would leave scars. After receiving a negative answer, she breathed a sigh of relief. When the father and daughter came out of the emergency department and saw Ruan Dajiang and his family of 4 squatting by the pillar at the door, Ruan Qingqing's face suddenly collapsed. The lingering dog skin ointment. Lu Guilan licked her smiling face and greeted her, is it okay to be gentle? Ruan Dahai said happily, fortunately, there was no fracture, it was just a slight soft tissue injury, everything else was minor. Just apply ointment for a few days and it will be fine. Lu Guilan immediately said, oh my, that's good. Gently, don't get angry with uncle and auntie. We didn't mean to hurt you, should I compensate you with a gift? Ruan Qingqing's face was cold and he didn't want to talk. Ruan Dahai felt that it was normal for relatives to argue, so he just spoke up. Moreover, Lu Guilan has voluntarily lowered her head, and her daughter should not be proud anymore. He tugged at his daughter's sleeve and said, gently, Auntie has apologized to you. You can also say a few words. Ruan Dahai's personality is like this, easy to talk, soft-eared, others just say a few soft words and don't care about anything. In her previous life, she had the same personality, and in the end, she was tricked by the Ruan Dajiang family into giving up all her property. She revived her life and regained consciousness, but Ruan Dahai remained the same. It's definitely not possible to try to change Ruan Dahai's personality for a while, we need to take it slowly. Ruan Qingqing reluctantly said, it's okay. Ruan Dahai smiled and said, that's right. Everyone take a step back, how can a family have overnight grudges? Lu Guilan also laughed along and suggested finding a restaurant to eat. Ruan Qingqing immediately took out the medical expenses list and said, Auntie, can you reimburse me for the medical expenses I spent today? Lu Guilan took the order and immediately pulled her face down. What's so expensive? Ruan Qingqing also leaned over to look, oh, it's 20.3 and 5 yuan. Ruan Dajiang and Ruan Qingqing were both shocked by this number, watching Ruan Dahai and his daughter remain silent. The registration fee and wound dressing are not expensive, a total of 3.5 yuan. The main reason is that Ruan Dahai is worried that her daughter's skin will leave scars at the site of the wound, so she asked for an imported scar remover. Ruan Dahai knew that Ruan Dajiang and his wife were not doing well economically, so he laughed and said, forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. We're all hungry. Let's find a place to eat first. Ruan Qingqing had guessed early on that Ruan Dahai's character would not ask Ruan Dajiang for medical expenses. She was pure-hearted in adding trouble to Lu Guilan. Ruan Dahai chose a private small restaurant with a good environment. The private store has a good environment, affordable prices, and does not require food stamps. Lu Guilan ordered twice cooked pork, boiled beef and white meat with mashed garlic at one go. Ruan Qingqing and Ruan Xiuxiu each ordered 2 or 3 good dishes, but Ruan Dajiang didn't order anything, only a bottle of Tupai wine. Ruan gently wanted to avoid eating, and only ordered a bowl of clear soup with a hand. Ruan Dahai ordered 1.5 pounds of rice. The surrounding area of the hospital has a large passenger flow and is easy to do business, but the downside is that there are many people with diverse backgrounds, and there are often situations where people choose to go solo and eat dominant meals. To prevent this situation, all restaurants here pay before eating. Ruan Dajiang's family sat motionless, naturally waiting for Ruan Dahai to pay. Tao Dahai touched it for a while and found that his wallet was gone. "Oh no, my wallet was touched by a thief." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Borrowing and repaying. Borrowing again is not difficult. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Borrowing and repaying. Borrowing again is not difficult. Ruan Dajiang and his wife searched around Ruan Dahai for a long time, even flipping over his 2 pants. In the end, they had to accept the fact that Ruan Dahai had lost his wallet. The wallet was lost, and Ruan Dahai naturally wanted to report to the police station, but was gently stopped by Ruan. "It's no use calling the police. People have already run away, so I'm sure I can't find my wallet." Ruan Dajiang asked him with concern how much money was in his wallet, and Ruan Dahai counted it. Lu Guilan's heart was as painful as being cut by a knife. "Did you just lose over 200 yuan for nothing? Dahai, you really are. It's not careful to carry so much money on your body. You'll just let the thief touch it with just a few words." "Oh my." Looking at Lu Guilan's pitiful appearance, "I didn't know, but I thought it was her money that was lost." Ruan Dahai was also frustrated. Losing money was a small matter, while losing his ID card and some important documents was the real trouble. He sighed and asked Ruan Qingqing, "Qingqing, do you have any money on you? Let's eat our food first before we talk." Ruan gently shook his head and said he didn't bring any money. Lu Guilan didn't believe it, so she took Ruan Qingqing's backpack and flipped it inside and out, only revealing a few steel bounces, which made her extremely angry. "Are you bringing this little money when you go out?" Ruan said lightly, "I'll just buy some vegetarian dishes and go back to the restaurant to eat at night, but it won't cost me a lot of money." The waiter impatiently knocked on the table and asked if they were still eating. "I want to eat." Ruan answered lightly and said to Lu Guilan, "Auntie, could you please advance the meal money today? I will repay it to you when my father returns next time." When Lu Guilan and her wife heard that they were going to pay for their own meals, their faces turned ugly, as if their mother had died. They ordered a large table of dishes and wine, at least 70 or 80 yuan, and they couldn't even afford it. Lu Guilan is also shameless, asking the waiter if they can charge on credit. The waiter's white eyes almost rolled up to the sky and rudely kicked them out. Lu Guilan was so angry that she stood at the doorstep, spitting and cursing loudly, greeting the ancestors of the waiter for 18 generations. It was already dark and everyone was so hungry that they could see stars in their eyes. In the end, they found a roadside stall and finished eating a bowl of vegetarian noodles alone. After finishing the noodles, Ruan Dajiang talked about borrowing money. As soon as Ruan Dajiang finished speaking, Lu Guilan hurriedly spoke up, "Dahai, you are Xiuxiu's second uncle. Xiuxiu finally got into college, so you can't help but tie her up." Ruan Xiuxiu also looked at Ruan Dahai with tears in her eyes. "Uncle Heir, I really have no choice. My family can't get this money out, only you can help me. Uncle Heir, I will remember your great kindness. When I graduate from college and earn money in the future, I will definitely be filial to you with Qingqing. Speaking is better than singing. In her previous life, Ruan Qingqing coaxed her to transfer her property, saying that Ruan Qingqing had a bad reputation and had an impact on the clothing factory. The people in the factory would not obey Ruan Qingqing, a morally corrupt boss. Only by transferring the garment factory to Ruan Qingqing and showing everyone Ruan Qingqing's sincerity and determination to repent, can Ruan Qingqing be lightly sentenced and gain forgiveness from the world. He also said that Ruan was relieved that the two were close sisters. In the future, one half of the garment factory would enjoy the same happiness. In her previous life, she was protected too well by Ruan Dahai, unaware of the danger in her heart. Coupled with a series of setbacks, she believed whatever Ruan Qingqing said, and in the end, she gave up 1,000,000 yuan worth of property in vain. As soon as Ruan Qingqing thought of these, her teeth itched with hatred. I hate not only the selfishness, shamelessness, and greed of the Ruan Dajiang family, but also my own weakness and deceit. On Ruan Dahai's side, as soon as he heard that he was borrowing money to pay tuition fees for Ruan Qingqing, he didn't hesitate to agree. They are all fathers, and he can understand how Ruan Dajiang worries about his children. Big brother, are you planning to borrow? Don't read if you don't have money. Ruan Dahai didn't expect her daughter to say such a sentence, and was both shocked and embarrassed for a moment. Gently, adults speak, you girl keep your mouth shut for me, Lu Guilan said on the spot. Ruan chuckled lightly and said, Auntie, you're the one who's a bit funny. You borrowed money from my family, but I can't express my opinion yet. After speaking, Ruan Qingqing didn't give the couple a chance to speak up and just started counting up. As the saying goes, borrowing and returning is not difficult. Since Xiuxiu was in elementary school, you have been borrowing money from your doorstep. Xiuxiu's tuition fees, Jiang's tuition fees, the cost of opening a noodle shop, and buying a bicycle. Whenever there is a place where money is needed, you come to your doorstep to borrow. It has been so many years and I haven't seen you return a penny. To put it bluntly, Xiuxiu and Jiang can afford to read, thanks entirely to my dad's financial support. From elementary school to high school graduation, isn't that enough? She still needs to go to college. After we finish offering her, will we still offer your family a college education? Do we still have to help them get married and buy a house when they graduate from college? My mother died early, and it's not easy for my father, who is both a father and a mother, to support me. He doesn't have the obligation to help you support your children. Auntie and uncle, as a younger generation, I would like to advise you to hold the bowl as big as your hand is. People are valued for their self-awareness, and there is no need to be too competitive to save face. After saying that, Ruan gently opened fire again at Ruan Qingqing. Xiuxiu, I've never been mean to you for lack of food and gas these years, have I? But how did you treat me? Today when I was having a quarrel with my uncle and aunt, you stood beside me without saying a word. Even a dog knows how to wag its tail. I'm really cold-hearted. I treat you as a sisters, and you treat me as a hoopie. I'll leave it here today. Don't come to me for anything else you Ruan Qingqing will encounter in the future. I can't afford a sisters like you. Ruan Qingqing has never been so happy before, as if venting all the grievances and hatred of her previous life in one breath, her whole body feeling refreshed and refreshed. However, Ruan Dajiang's family almost had no 7 orifices smoking. Gently, this dead girl ate explosives. Seeing many people pointing at her around, Ruan Qingqing felt a fever on her face and got up to chase Ruan gently. Ruan Qingqing, stop. Dad, hurry up and let's ignore her. Upon hearing Ruan Qingqing shouting from behind, Ruan gently pulled Ruan Dahai and walked faster, wishing for wind and fire wheels to grow on her soles. Gently, be careful. Ruan Dahai's reminder was still slow. Ruan gently walked and turned around to look around, but didn't see the way. He plunged into the arms of passers-by. Sorry young man. Hey, Xiao Jiang, is that you? Ruan Qingqing hurriedly pulled his daughter back and apologized to passers-by, but upon seeing that she was an acquaintance, he couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. Ruan gently covered his nose, his eyes filled with physiological tears, and he stared at Jiang Chen, who he had met unexpectedly, with a watery expression. Her body was so thin, but her bones were so hard that the bridge of her nose was almost broken when she was hit. Jiang Chen nodded at Ruan Qingqing and called out "Uncle Hai" in a hoarse voice. Then, he and his companions carried a black bag with unknown contents and left. From beginning to end, I didn't take a gentle glance at Ruan, as if she was a transparent person. "Impolite guy, can't you shout, sister?" Ruan gently murmured inwardly. After such a delay, Ruan Qingqing's family also caught up. The family of four surrounded Ruan Qingqing and her father and daughter, exuding a strong aura as if they were debt collectors. "Gently, in front of Uncle Air, let's make it clear that those things are things you don't like or want anymore, and you insist on giving them to me. Now you want me to pay them back, are you deliberately playing with me?" Ruan Qingqing cried while speaking, looking even more aggrieved than Ruan Qingqing. Ergung, the update time is tentatively set at around 2 p.m. The new article requires the care of the treasure children, and we request tickets and collections. When the male protagonist is still young and young man doesn't know what it feels like, please be patient. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Jiang Chen's nickname unexpectedly was a mouse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Jiang Chen's nickname unexpectedly was a mouse. Ruan Qingqing also didn't expect that Ruan Qingqing would pretend to be pitiful so well. She used to say she didn't like or want it, but it wasn't just to save face for Ruan Qingqing. She didn't believe that Ruan Qingqing couldn't see it. Now she's pretending to be crazy and foolish with her, so there's no need for her to save face for her anymore. Well, I took the initiative to give it to you. I regret it now. You returned everything to me, and the shirt on your body and sandals on your feet are all mine. Take it off now and return it to me. Ruan Qingqing didn't expect Ruan Qingqing to come true, and her face turned pale and red with embarrassment. She really wanted to take off her shirt and sandals and smash them all onto Ruan Qingqing's face. With a strong voice, she said, "Give it back to you. I don't care about your old things." But she couldn't bear to part with it. These were optional for Ruan Qingqing, but for her, they were the only dignity. Upon hearing Ruan Qingqing ask her daughter to return the item, Lu Guilan jumped 8 jong high and almost poked Ruan Qingqing's eyes with her fingers. "You dead girl, your wings have grown hard. It's amazing. You even have the face to ask for the things you sent out yourself. How about I give you 2 drops of saliva? Do you want it?" After finishing speaking, he suddenly let out a loud thud in his throat, and the wound was about to spit gently towards Ruan. Ruan Qingqing quickly hid. Ruan Qingqing, like a hen protecting her chicks, kept her daughter behind her and said, "Sister-in-law, have something to say. She's young and immature, so don't get angry with her." Speaking, he turned around to persuade Ruan Qingqing not to argue with Ruan Qingqing. Ruan Dajiang didn't want to escalate the relationship, after all, he still had to borrow money and scolded Lu Guilan for pulling her back. Lu Guilan took advantage of the slope to descend the donkey and calm down, but her eyes fiercely gouged out Ruan Qingqing, as if she was about to pounce and devour people. Ruan Dajiang wanted to go to the side with Ruan Qingqing and have a private conversation, but Ruan gently said nothing and refused to let go. "Dad, I'm not feeling well. Let's go back first." "Okay." Ruan Qingqing naturally leans towards his daughter in his heart. If he doesn't say something, it doesn't mean he doesn't have any thoughts. He has a good temper, but he is not foolish either. He helped the Ruan Dajiang family, on the one hand for the sake of brotherhood, and on the other hand for fear that he would be old or gone in the future. Ruan Qingqing had no brothers and sisters to help. He always responds to the requests of the Ruan Dajiang family, hoping to maintain a good relationship and provide care for Ruan Qingqing, Ruan Qingqing, and the three Ming siblings of the Ruan family in the future. But today, Ruan Dajiang and Lu Guilan attacked their daughter, and Ruan Xiuxiu watched from the side without saying a word for her. He was very disappointed in his heart. Although he still greeted Ruan Dajiang and his wife with a smiling face, his pure personality began to emerge, but at the same time, he was also concerned about brotherhood. "Brother, it's getting late. You guys should go back as soon as possible. If there's anything else we can discuss tomorrow, I'll take it lightly and leave first." Ruan Dajiang also refused to let Ruan Dahai go. After all, what he wanted to borrow was not a small amount, and it was inconvenient to talk on the street. After asking about Ruan Dahai's whereabouts tomorrow, he let the father and daughter go. "Gently, wait for me at the door, I'll go in and ride the motorcycle out. The parking lot in the hospital is a bit far away." Ruan Dahai felt sorry for his daughter and asked her to wait at the door. He went in to pick up the car himself. Ruan gently turned his head and saw that Ruan Dajiang's family had already left, so he agreed with peace of mind. The fence of the hospital is covered with 7 miles of incense, with white petals like stars dotted among the green leaves. When the wind blows, the petals fall like snowflakes, creating a refreshing and pleasant fragrance. Ruan lightly stepped on the 7-mile fragrant petals on the ground with his foot, feeling annoyed. Although she had a scene today, it was actually of no use. Ruan Dajiang would still come to her door to borrow money, and Ruan Dahai would not refuse. Feeling worried, someone suddenly passed by and their backpack was hit. Ruan turned around cautiously and instinctively unzipped his backpack. Seeing Ruan Dahai's wallet neatly inside, he breathed a sigh of relief. Ruan Dahai's wallet was actually not lost, but was quietly hidden by her. There was a female classmate in the class who lost money. She rummaged through her desk pocket and backpack, but couldn't find it. Later, she realized that the money had fallen on the bench and had been sitting under her buttocks for a class. This incident left a vivid memory for Ruan, so when Ruan Dahai was not paying attention, he took Ruan Dahai's wallet and hid it by his leg, blocking it with a skirt. However, there are really many thieves around the hospital, most of whom are from other provinces and are still organized by gangs. They cover up and cooperate with each other. Even if someone is caught on the spot, their wallets have long been transferred by other gang members, and the police station is helpless. Thinking about it, Ruan gently carried his backpack back to his body and tightly embraced it with his hands. Suddenly, she saw a familiar figure in front of her, wearing a patched gray coat. These days, young people are all wearing dakron and sweatshirts, which are only worn by middle-aged and elderly people in their 40s and 50s. So much so that Ruan easily recognized it as Jiang Chen, who was carrying something with another young man towards a van. Ruan hesitated lightly and ran over with his foot raised. "Jiang Chen." The girl's soft and gentle voice was as sweet and pleasant as the fragrance of 7 miles of incense around her. Jiang Chen only paused for half a second under his feet, then continued walking as if nothing had happened, without any intention of paying attention. Zhang Chuanxi, who was working with Jiang Chen, seemed to have her eyes glued to Ruan Qingqing's face and couldn't move them away. "Mouse, did the other girl call you?" Zhang Chuanxi thought that Jiang Chen had not heard it, and after reminding Jiang Chen, he didn't react, only then did he understand that Jiang Chen was deliberately ignoring it. He also got used to it and asked Ruan Qingqing with a smile, "Sister, what's up with finding a mouse?" Ruan Qingqing was surprised that Jiang Chen's nickname was actually a mouse. She hated mice the most, so she glanced at the back of Jiang Chen's head. She didn't actually have anything special, she just saw Jiang Chen here and wanted to come over and say hello to ease the relationship. However, Jiang Chen was even more difficult to contact than he had imagined, and he didn't pay any attention to her. Ruan Qingqing has a thin skin and is not good at socializing with people. For a moment, she felt a bit embarrassed and casually asked, "What are you lifting? It looks very heavy. Do you need any help?" "No need, girl, where do you live? You're still wandering on the street so late, be careful not to encounter bad people. Zhang Chuanxi's playful and smiling face looked out of place and unfamiliar. If it were normal, Ruan Qingqing would definitely not want to talk to her, but it seemed that Zhang Chuanxi had a good relationship with Jiang Chen. I injured my hand a bit, come and take care of it. Upon hearing her say this, Zhang Chuanxi instinctively looked at her hand and was distracted. He stepped on it empty and the black bag he was carrying in his hand fell to the ground with a clatter. The zipper on the black bag slid open, revealing a human foot from inside. Before Ruan could react lightly, Jiang Chen had already bent down, stuffed his foot back into the bag, and quickly zippered it up. The entire action should not exceed 2 seconds. And at this moment, Ruan Qingqing finally realized that the black bag was not filled with goods or garbage, but with dead people. This is a hospital-specific shroud bag. A cool breath seemed to slowly climb up Ruan's back along the soles of his feet. At this moment, Jiang Chen, who was hiding his good feet, turned to look at her. The dim yellow streetlights streamed down from the top of her head, and half of the boy's engraved face was hidden in the shadow. A pair of jet black eyes stared straight at her, oozing with inexplicable terror. Ruan was so scared that she turned her head and ran away with an "ah" sound. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Whether she goes to college or not is none of my business. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Whether she goes to college or not is none of my business. Jiang Chen was ready to speak up and drive people away, but when he saw Ruan Qingqing scared away, he turned around and called on Zhang Chuanxi to lift the corpse bag. Zhang Chuanxi looked up and said to him, "You scared away such a well-behaved girl." Jiang Chen didn't take over and lifted his things and put them on the van with a heavy head. Zhang Chuanxi was still eagerly asking, "Mouse, what is her name? Do you all recognize her? Did she play with friends?" Jiang Chen was annoyed by the question and scolded Zhang Chuanxi, "Are you bothering me?" Zhang Chuanxi finally calmed down, but his eyes couldn't help but look in the direction of Ruan's gentle running. He truly felt that Ruan Qingqing was well behaved, with a white and fair face, a good figure, big and round eyes, and 2 small dimples on her face when she smiled. He likes this style of girl. Seeing the dead in the evening, Ruan Qingqing was truly frightened and ran a long distance in one breath until Ruan Dahai caught up with her on a motorcycle. "Gently, why are you running so fast? I shouted at you from behind for half a day." Ruan gently supported his waist, gasping for breath, wondering if Ruan Dahai knew what Jiang Chen was doing. Although work does not distinguish between high and low, lifting people to death can still make people feel frustrated and unlucky. After resting her breath, Ruan Qingqing decided to wait until later about Jiang Chen's matter. She took out the wallet from her backpack. "Dad, I just met the nurse who disinfected me. She said you left your wallet in the hospital." Taking the lost and recovered wallet, Ruan Dahai immediately opened it and saw that his ID card and receipts were there, which made him very happy. "Oh my, I'm still thinking about this. Losing money is just a small matter, it's troublesome to lose these receipts." Ruan Qingqing couldn't help feeling guilty. "Then you can put the receipts in the safe in the future, don't bring them with you." Ruan Dahai nodded and put his wallet into his pocket. The People's Hospital is not far from Ruan Qingqing's house, just a few minutes by motorcycle. The neighbor downstairs is a locksmith. Ruan Dahai asked the other person for help to open the door. Ruan Dahai had a good relationship, but the other person refused to accept any money. In the end, he accepted a pack of red plum cigarettes. Returning home, Ruan Dahai first turned on the water heater. Nowadays, water heaters are still rare. They are water storage type, and each time they are used, they must be heated first and used sparingly, otherwise the water will become colder and colder as it is used. When the water was hot, the father and daughter sat in the living room watching TV. "Gently, wait for another 2 days. When Dad is finished with his work during this period, he will take you to the department store to buy a new TV." The Ruan family bought their TV early, it was black and white, and the screen occasionally flickered. In the past 2 years, there were color televisions on the market, but at that time they were very expensive and most people couldn't get a spot. Now that policies are open, there is no need for quotas to buy color televisions. Ruan Qingqing loves watching TV and has been arguing with Ruan Dahai to buy a new one. Ruan Dahai has also agreed, but has not made time to buy it. I won't buy a new TV for now, Dad. I want to watch less TV to avoid affecting my studies. Ruan Dahai was naturally pleased to hear her so sensible. Qingqing, you've grown up and you know you've made progress, but you still need to buy the TV. We should have replaced it long ago. Don't worry, Dad has all the money ready. You can choose whichever one you like, we'll buy it. Ruan Qingqing doesn't want to change the TV, not just to study well, but also not to take advantage of Ruan Dajiang's family. She used to be foolish, telling everything about her family to Ruan Xiuxiu and Lu Guilan. Lu Guilan knew that her family was going to replace the TV, so she had already coaxed her into agreeing to send the outdated old TV over. Dad, the TV is not busy beforehand. I have something to ask you. What's going on? We have a lot of savings now, just cash deposits. Ruan Dahai was overjoyed, thinking that she was interested in something else. Gently, just say what you want to buy. Ruan gently stood up and sat next to Ruan Dahai, holding her arm and coquettishly saying, I really said that. Can't you go back on your word? That's not possible. If you want to buy an airplane or a ship, can I afford it? Ruan lightly pursed her lips and said with a smile, I'm not buying anything. I want to help you manage your money, okay? Ruan Dahai was both surprised and amused. If I were to manage your money, wouldn't it be like sifting beans through a sieve and leaking them out in 2 days? Oh, no, Dad. I only keep my passbook. You can take your ID card, and I can't withdraw the money from it. Ruan Dahai is not foolish either, he can guess what his daughter is thinking. Gently, your uncle and I are brothers. He encountered difficulties, and as my younger brother, if I have the ability to help, I still need to help. Besides, Xiuxiu is still your sister. Can you bear to let her go to college without studying? Ruan Qingqing angrily said, it's none of my business whether she goes to college or not. I'm not her mother. I won't even bother her if she tries to beg me in the future. I'll keep my word. Ruan Dahai didn't pay much attention, thinking that his daughter was still angry about having a quarrel with Ruan Dajiang in the afternoon. Alright, gently, let's just let it go and don't get angry anymore. Seeing Ruan Dahai laughing and not taking things seriously, Ruan Qingqing couldn't help but get serious. Dad, you don't help the poor, you don't help the lazy. Over the years, you have helped Uncle enough, and when he comes back, he always responds to his requests, causing his family to come to you whenever they encounter any problems. He never really thought about how they can rely on their own abilities to solve difficulties. You are not helping them, you are harming them. Take the case of Uncle running a noodle shop. If you hadn't lent them the capital at the time, Uncle would have gone to work. Although it's a bit hard, the couple can earn 100 or 200 yuan a month together without any problem. To be honest, Uncle is not someone who is good at doing business. He is not adaptable or willing to delve into it. After selling noodles for so many years, it has always been those 2 flavors. Customers have long been tired of it, and the storefront is dirty and dirty. They don't know how to clean it up. Business is getting worse day by day, and they can't even earn rent money. It's better to work. In fact, Ruan Dahai also gave Ruan Dajiang an idea to renovate the shop, improve the taste, and learn more from the essence of other noodle shops. But Ruan Dajiang is stubborn and cannot listen to opinions. After finishing speaking about Ruan Dajiang, Ruan gently said to Ruan Xiuxiu, she is willing to sell her university spots, which shows that she is not so focused on studying. Uncle insists on borrowing tuition fees from you, so you can ask them to write a loan agreement for all the money borrowed over the years, specifying the repayment period. Alright, gently. The water is almost hot. I'll go downstairs and see if there's anyone selling rubber gloves. Put them on when you take a shower to avoid getting your fingers wet. Seeing that Ruan Dahai didn't even take her words to heart, Ruan felt a faint sigh of frustration. After Ruan Dahai left with the key, she dug out Ruan Dahai's phone book and made a phone call to Yang Wenzhong, the accountant of the clothing factory. On the other end, the family of Ruan Dajiang has just arrived home. They live far away and are reluctant to spend money on taking the bus, so they can only walk home on 2 legs. As soon as he entered the door, Ruan Qingqing occupied the only bamboo sofa and chair in the house, collapsing on it. He picked up a novel by Jiang and read it with great interest. Lu Guolan sat on the wooden stool, drinking water and complaining that her legs were all broken. Ruan Dajiang poured himself a glass of xiaojiu, sipping it with a delicious flavor. Ruan Xiuxiu picked up her sandals and returned to the small room separated by curtains, finding candles and iron sticks, intending to reattach the cracked areas on the shoe upper and collar. I know how to drink all day long, you damn son of a turtle. How can I deal with money? Let's just talk nonsense. What's going on? I'll go to the factory tomorrow and talk to Dahai. Gently, this dead girl, I don't know if she took the wrong medicine. I even said I brought their TV back today, but she insisted on blocking the door, otherwise there would be TV watching tonight. Ruan Qingqing looked up and said, Uncle Air bought a new TV. Shouldn't Uncle Air buy another new refrigerator? Just give us his old one. The weather is so hot, with a refrigerator, we can freeze watermelons and eat them. It's really refreshing. You just know how to eat. Do you think the electricity bill is free? In Lu Guolan's cursing voice, Ruan Xiuxiu finally glued the notched area of her sandals together. She blew out the candle, got up, lifted the cloth curtain, and went out. Dad, tomorrow we'll go to the countryside and pick up Yi Nai and the others. Let's go find Uncle Air together. With Yi Nai around, Uncle Air will have to borrow the money. Air Gung seeking collections, seeking tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 10. Bringing the village chief to the door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Bringing the village chief to the door. The ringing of the phone startled Ruan gently from her dream, and when she saw that the environment was at home, she breathed a sigh of relief. Ding! The phone was still ringing, and she wiped the sweat off her forehead and stepped on her slippers to answer it. Gently, your uncle brought your grandparents to the factory. On the other end of the phone, the voice of accountant Yang Wenzhong instantly dispelled Ruan Qingqing's drowsiness. She quickly changed into clothes, put on her bag, and went out, calling for a motorcycle to rush to the garment factory. As soon as he entered the garment factory, everyone from the security guard to the staff warmly greeted Ruan gently. Ruan Dahai is a kind-hearted person who never deducts wages, and Ruan Qingqing is also favored by the employees of the garment factory. Accountant Yang Wenzhong took her to Ruan Dahai's office and said, Your uncle and his team arrived early in the morning, bringing your mistress and the village chief. Judging from this situation, I'm afraid we'll have to borrow a lot more this time. Yang Wenzhong and Ruan Dahai are from the same village and have a deep understanding of the affairs of the Ruan family. They cannot tolerate the practice of exploiting their own brothers like Ruan Dajiang, who has no ability to do so. In this era, anyone with hands and feet can earn money and live a good life. As an elder brother, Ruan Dajiang has been sucking on Ruan Dahai like a vampire for 10 years. Even outsiders can't bear it anymore. Upon hearing that Ruan Dajiang had also called the village chief, Ruan Qingqing couldn't help but sneer in her heart. It's been many years now, and you still come up with this move. In the past, rural people had a low culture and backward feudal ideology. They treated village chiefs like gods and followed their words as if they were a sacred edict. But now that the policies have been opened up, young people in rural areas have entered the city to work, seen the world, and their thinking has also improved. It is no longer the era of village chiefs speaking alone. Ruan Dajiang still wants to use the village chief to suppress her and Ruan Dahai, dreaming. Ruan gently took out a leather notebook from his backpack and handed it to Yang Wenzhong, whispering to him. Yang Wenzhong nodded repeatedly. Ruan quickly arrived at Ruan Dahai's office door, where village chief Guo Digang was excitedly saying something, with a righteous and imposing demeanor. Ruan Dahai listened on the side, occasionally nodding in agreement. Ruan Dajiang didn't react much, remained silent, and looked at him honestly. But it's just looking at it, in fact, it's selfish and very conceited. Ruan Qingqing did not immediately enter, but hid outside the door trying to strategize. Everyone has their own purpose in doing things, and Ruan Dajiang's purpose is to make money from their family. What about the village chief? Ruan Dajiang and Ruan Dahai, two brothers, one is poor and destitute, and the other is successful in their careers. With the shrewdness of the village chief, they will not fail to know who is more beneficial to them. Why is the village chief so biased towards helping the useless Ruan Dajiang? Ruan Qingqing suddenly remembered that Ruan Dajiang had once said that the university quota of Li Laozi's family had been replaced by the village head's family. Perhaps Ruan Dajiang threatened the village chief with this matter. Ruan Dajiang can use the village chief's handle, and so can she. Ruan took a deep breath, calmed down, and turned to walk into the office. Dad, uncle, grandma, village chief, you all are here. Gently, how did you come? Ruan Dahai was surprised by his daughter's appearance. Being alone at home is boring. It's been a long time since I came to the factory to play, so I'll come and take a look. Ruan smiled casually, as if it was just a coincidence. From the moment Ruan Qingqing appeared, Ruan Xiuxiu's eyes seemed to be fixed on Ruan Qingqing. She had never seen the dress Ruan Qingqing was wearing before. The square neckline reveals a large area of the neck and collarbone, and the sleeves are bulging like two cute little lanterns. The neckline, cuffs, and skirt edges are all adorned with white lace. The fabric is a fresh and tender green color, and the hem of the skirt is a pleated style, fluffy and soft, making the two calves white and slender. This kind of Ruan Qingqing looks like a doll. Ruan Xiuxiu's heart was both sour and bitter, jealous to the point of separating from the wall. Today when she returned to the village, she also dressed up specially. Her upper body was a pink cotton shirt, her lower body was black bell-bottomed pants, and her feet were black leather shoes with heels. The Dacron shirt and leather shoes were both given to her by Ruan Qingqing, while the bell-bottoms were borrowed from her friends. With such a figure, she returned to the village and received countless envious gazes. Girls of the same age surrounded her with a crowd of stars and admiring her attire. They envied her for being admitted to college and being able to eat commodity food in the future, marry into the city and enjoy endless happiness. Her vanity was fulfilled to an unprecedented extent. However, at this moment, Ruan's gentle appearance was like a slap, shattering her pride and pride. This kind of Hong Kong version of goods that can only be bought in Shanghai and the capital, she even dreams of owning one, but Ruan Qingqing changes clothes every day without repeating the same style. Although they are all daughters of the Ruan family, why does Ruan Qingqing have so many good things, yet she even has to pick up a pair of old sandals that Ruan Qingqing doesn't want to wear? Ruan Xiuxiu's eyes were straight and fiery, and Ruan Qingqing naturally noticed. However, she didn't intend to pay attention, but Ruan Xiuxiu leaned in like a dog skin ointment. Gently, when did you buy the new dress? It looks really nice. It's none of your business. Ruan's gentle indifference did not make Ruan Xiuxiu back down. Ruan Qingqing loves beauty and likes to be praised by others. Ruan Xiuxiu holds on to this and always manages to make Ruan Qingqing happy, and then generously gives Ruan Xiuxiu this and that. Although the two sisters had a bad time yesterday, Ruan Xiuxiu felt that Ruan's ears were soft. Ruan would forgive her if she said a few soft words, continue to be her sisters and give her something. Gently, are you still angry with me? Yesterday I wanted to help you too, but you know my mother's temper. If I dare to help you, she will definitely take care of me when she goes back. Don't be angry with me, okay? Ruan Qingqing couldn't help but see what Ruan Xiuxiu was up to. She sarcastically said, I'm not angry with you. It's been a long time since you returned the things to me. Are you wearing this shirt and leather shoes? No matter how thick Ruan Xiuxiu's skin is, being pursued in such a public manner, she can't hold back her face and blushes like a monkey's butt. Li Yulian has always favored Ruan Xiuxiu since she was young, because she personally raised Ruan Xiuxiu. Along the way into the city, I heard Ruan Xiuxiu speak ill of Ruan Qingqing. Now that I saw Ruan Qingqing sweep away Ruan Xiuxiu's face, my nose was not my nose, my face was not my face. Look at what your batch of dolls are wearing, with open chests and exposed legs, just like the ones selling asterisk in that kiln. You're shameless. Li Yulian is an uneducated rural woman, with a sharp and vulgar demeanor. Ruan Qingqing has been afraid of her since childhood. This will be pointed at and scolded by the other party as a young lady in the kiln. Ruan Qingqing was so angry that her head was confused and her tears were streaming down her face. She wanted to retort but didn't know how to say it. Ruan Xiuxiu hid aside and enjoyed herself, feeling as comfortable as drinking ice soda. No matter how beautiful Ruan Qingqing looks, it's not that she doesn't like the elderly. End of this chapter.